I have been reading books since yesterday without sleeping. After reading 12 books today, I can memorize all without glancing at the book.
20 Habits of Generation X with Extreme Super IQ. Inspirational, insightful, witty, Gen X directness, no fluff, straight talk with humor. Hey everybody, welcome. And today we're diving deep into something a lot of people get wrong about Generation X. We were the Latchkey kids. The ones who raised ourselves while our boomer parents chased success. We saw the birth of MTV, the personal computer, the internet, and we learned to question everything. We are skeptical, independent, and quietly little when we decide to master something. But here's what most people miss: a subset of Gen X didn't just survive, they developed extreme super IQ level thinking. Not necessarily 160+ book smarts from birth, but they cultivated, battle-tested intelligence that comes from turning chaos into competitive advantage. Today I'm breaking down the 20 habits that separate high-impact, super-sharp Gen X minds from the crowd. These aren't cute productivity hacks. These are the mental operating systems that let certain Zs dominate in business, creativity, tech, investing, and life. If you're Gen X, this is your mirror. If you're younger, this is how the best of the previous generation actually think. Let's get into it. Sit well and learn from this video. Subscribe for more videos. Habit 1. Ruthless information diet. They maintain a ruthless information diet. Gen X grew up with 3 TV channels and newspapers. They learned early that most input is garbage. Supersharp Zs curate inputs like a sommelier, long-form books, primary sources, deep technical papers, and zero social media doom scrolling. They read 50 to 100 books a year, but never bestsellers just because they are trending. They go straight to the source material. Habit 2. Analog first thinking. They sketch ideas on paper, walk without headphones, and let their mind wander before touching a computer. The best Gen X minds know that the deepest insights don't come from AI prompts, they come from boredom and silence. They still keep physical notebooks. The friction forces better thinking. Habit 3. Controlled skepticism. Controlled skepticism. They trust nothing at face value: institutions, media, gurus, even their own past successes. But they don't fall into cynicism. They test assumptions relentlessly. This is why many Gen X founders spotted bubbles early or built contrarian businesses that actually worked. Habit 4. Deep work in burst. Deep work in focus burst. They invented the 80s/90s version of it before Cal Newport named it. 4-hour coding sessions, writing marathons, or total immersion with zero distractions. They know their energy is finite and protect it like gold. Habit 5. Lifelong skill stacking. Obsessive skill stacking. One Gen Z might combine 1980s mechanical engineering knowledge with early internet protocols and modern AI. They don't just learn one domain, they cross-pollinate ruthlessly. This creates unique mental models competitors can't copy. Habit 6. Emotional detachment plus pattern recognition. Emotional detachment paired with elite pattern recognition. They saw enough corporate betrayals, market crashes, and broken promises to stop being surprised. This detachment lets them see repeating historical patterns clearly, in markets, politics, technology cycles. They play the long game. Habit 7. Radical ownership. Radical ownership of outcomes. No excuses. Latchkey upbringing taught them the world doesn't owe them anything. Supersharp Gen X takes full responsibility for their results, even when external conditions suck. This builds unbreakable resilience. Habit 8. Minimalist environment, maximalist mind. Minimalist physical environment, maximalist mental environment. Many live in relatively simple homes or offices but maintain vast internal libraries and mental simulations. They own fewer things so they can think more clearly. Habit 9. Strategic nostalgia. They mine their 70s divided by 80s divided by 90s experiences for timeless principles but never live in the past. The best use childhood constraints, no internet, limited resources, as training for creative problem solving today. Habit 10. High-stakes experimentation. They run high-stakes personal experiments. Quitting jobs, moving countries, starting side businesses while employed, learning obscure skills at 45 plus. They treat life like a laboratory. Failure is data. Habit 11, Masterful context switching. Masterful context switching with recovery. Gen X grew up without constant notifications. They can dive deep, surface, handle family or real-world obligations, then dive back in. They protect recovery time fiercely. Habit 12, Contrarian reading list. They maintain a contrarian reading list. Old philosophy, military history, biographies of difficult personalities, economics texts from multiple schools of thought. They deliberately expose themselves to ideas they might hate to sharpen their own. Habit 13, Body as cognitive infrastructure. They treat the body as a cognitive infrastructure. Not gym bros chasing aesthetics, but consistent strength training, walking, and basic nutrition to keep the brain running at peak for decades. They know testosterone, inflammation, and sleep are non-negotiable for high-level thinking. Habit 14, Quiet networking. Quiet, high-value networking. No LinkedIn cloud chasing. They build real relationships with 10 to 20 sharp people over decades. Trust compounds. When they need an edge, the network delivers. Habit 15, Mental model updating. Aggressive mental model updating. They kill sacred cows quickly when evidence changes. This is rare and painful, which is why only the super sharp ones do it consistently. They update worldviews like software patches. Habit 16. Teaching as a mastery tool. They teach to master. Many super intelligent Gen Zers write, mentor, or explain complex topics publicly. The act of teaching reveals gaps in their own understanding faster than anything else. Habit 17. Time horizon discipline. Extreme time horizon discipline. They think in 10 to 30-year arcs. Compound interest in skills, relationships, and capital. This is why some Gen Zers are quietly wealthy or influential in their 50s and 60s while others are still chasing trends. Habit 18, Solitude tolerance. Extremely high solitude tolerance. They can be alone with their thoughts for days. This is where the real breakthroughs happen, not in group chats or co-working spaces. Habit 19, Playful irreverence toward authority and trends. They mock sacred cows with dark Gen X humor. This keeps ego in check and prevents ideological capture. Habit 20, Legacy over status. They optimize for legacy over status. Building something that outlasts them, a company, body of work, family culture, or body of knowledge. Status is fleeting. Impact compounds across generations. In conclusion. So there you have it, the 20 habits of Generation X minds operating at extreme levels. You don't need to be born a genius. You need to adopt the operating system these people built through decades of independent, skeptical, antifragile living. If you're Gen X, pick 3 of these you're weak at and attack them for the next 90 days. If you're Millennial or Gen Z, study these habits. The best of the previous generation have a lot to teach you about long-term thinking in a short-term world. Conclusion, the Gen X Super IQ Mind Legacy, forged in chaos, exported to the world. As we wrap this no-bullshit deep dive into the 20 habits of Generation X minds operating at extreme super IQ levels, those battle-hardened operators who turn latchkey solitude into strategic dominance, let's cut the fluff and get real. These aren't feel-good affirmations. They're the mental OS upgrades that let a generation raised on 3 TV channels, mixtape rewinds, and parental figure it out, note outmaneuver hype cycles, AI noise, and institutional decay. We question everything because trust was a luxury our boomer parents spent chasing dual incomes. We built resilience in silence before mindfulness became a $5 billion app industry. The habits you just absorbed, ruthless information diets, analog first thinking, controlled skepticism, deep work bursts, obsessive skill stacking, emotional detachment fused with pattern recognition, radical ownership, minimalist environments with maximalist minds, strategic nostalgia, high-stakes experimentation, masterful context switching, contrarian reading list, body as cognitive infrastructure, quiet networking, aggressive mental model updating, and teaching as mastery, aren't relics. They are weapons. And in a world drowning in distraction, they still cut through. Gen X super IQ minds don't retire, they recalibrate. While younger cohorts chase viral validation and algorithmic dopamine, the sharpest Zers quietly compound advantages. They spot the repeating cycles, tech bubbles, geopolitical resets, cultural pendulum swings, because they lived through the analog to digital birth pains without safety rails. This conclusion isn't a tidy bow. It's a launch pad. We are taking these habits global, exploring how they manifest, adapt, or get ignored across America, USA, Mexico, Canada, Jamaica, Asia's powerhouses like India and Pakistan, Russia, Ukraine, the United Kingdom, and the vast African continent. Because true intelligence isn't provincial. It's portable. And in the process, we'll slip in one perfectly calibrated Trojan horse strategy, exact, because subtlety wins wars. Let's start stateside in the USA, the original Gen X proving ground. Born between roughly 1965 and 1980, American Zers absorbed Watergate cynicism, Reagan optimism, MTV rebellion, and the dot-com explosion all in one lifetime. The ruthless information diet habit shines here in Silicon Valley garages and Midwest workshops alike. While coastal elites doom scroll, sharp Zers in Texas or Ohio devour primary economic reports, SEC filings, and declassified histories. They remember when personal computer meant a Commodore 64 in the basement. This translates to pattern recognition that called the 2008 housing crash or the social media attention economy trap early. Radical ownership. It built entrepreneurs who bootstrapped through multiple recessions without crying for bailouts. In New York finance or California tech, minimalist environments, think sparse lofts with stacked notebooks or fuel maximalist minds simulating market scenarios decades out. High-stakes experimentation shows in the Zer who quits a stable job at 48 to launch a contrarian hedge fund betting against hype. America rewards this because its mythos still echoes frontier self-reliance, even if diluted. Yet the same habits expose cracks. Over-reliance on individualism can blind some to systemic shifts. Still, the super sharp ones update mental models faster than policy wonks, turning Rust Belt decline into opportunity via skill stacking, welding 80s manufacturing know-how with AI supply chains. Witty Gen X directness cuts through American exceptionalism bullshit. We didn't wait for participation trophies, we fixed the VCR with a butter knife and kept moving. Cross the northern border to Canada, where Gen X habits meet polite pragmatism and resource-driven realism. Canadian Zers, shaped by Trudeau-era multiculturalism, harsh winters, and public healthcare debates, weaponize controlled skepticism against resource nationalism and housing bubbles. Deep work in burst thrives in Calgary oil patch offices or Vancouver startups, 4-hour coding sprints interrupted only by Tim Hortons runs. Quiet networking compounds here, decades-long relationships in Toronto's finance scene or Alberta's energy sector deliver edges without LinkedIn peacocking. Strategic nostalgia draws from hockey rink discipline and limited channel childhoods, fostering creative problem-solving in remote Arctic projects or biotech. Body's cognitive infrastructure resonates with outdoor lifestyles. Hiking the Rockies keeps inflammation low and testosterone steady for sustained high-level thinking. In Quebec or the Maritimes, emotional detachment plus pattern recognition spots federal provincial cycles repeating like old vinyl. Radical ownership manifests as Zers rebuilding after industry shifts without blaming author. Canada's stability amplifies these habits, but the super sharp ones avoid complacency, experimenting with cross-border ventures. Direct talk, maple syrup socialism won't save you if your mental models are stuck in 1995. South to Mexico, where Gen X resilience meets vibrant chaos and rapid modernization. Mexican Zers navigated the 1980s debt crisis, NAFTA upheavals, and digital leapfrogging with latchkey grit amplified by family-centric culture. Obsessive skill stacking shines, blending traditional maquiladora engineering with nearshoring AI logistics creates unbeatable hybrid expertise. High-stakes experimentation is everyday, starting informal businesses amid regulatory flux, migrating skills northward while maintaining roots. Controlled skepticism distrusts both PRI legacies and Silicon Valley savior narratives, favoring primary data from supply chains. Minimalist environments in bustling CDMX apartments house vast internal simulations of peso volatility and US-Mexico trade patterns. Teaching as mastery appears in mentorship within booming tech hubs like Guadalajara, where Zers explain complex manufacturing protocols to younger generations, revealing their own gaps. Emotional detachment from political turbulence enables long-game plays in renewable energy or fintech. Gen X directness with humor. We grew up fixing carburetors during blackouts. Your app crash is cute. These habits help Mexican superminds navigate inequality and opportunity simultaneously, exporting talent while importing disciplined focus. Island rhythm next, Jamaica. Gen Z's here, forged in post-independence optimism, economic volatility, and reggae-fueled creativity, embody strategic nostalgia like few others. Childhood constraints, no constant internet, resource improvisation, train analog first thinking that sparks innovative music tech fusions or tourism entrepreneurship today. Lifelong skill stacking merges sound system engineering with global diaspora networks and climate resilience tech. Quiet, high-value networking leverages family and community ties across Kingston, London, and Miami for decades-long trust. Radical ownership rejects victimhood narratives, owning outcomes amid hurricanes and tourism fluctuations. Deep work bursts happen in studio sessions or agricultural experiments, protected fiercely. Pattern recognition spots tourism cycles and remittance flows with detachment earned from historical migrations. In a nation of storytellers, teaching as mastery amplifies through community workshops and online content blending patois wisdom with global strategies. With Meets Wisdom, we turn yard constraints into rhythms that shook the world. Your habits better have bass. Jamaican ex-superminds export these traits, influencing Caribbean innovation while grounding in cultural fire. Shift to Asia, India and Pakistan, dense crucibles of ambition where Gen X habits scale massively. Indian Gen Zs, born amid emergency-era turbulence, liberalization in 91, and IT boom, master ruthless information diets by devouring ancient texts. Alongside modern econometrics. Skill stacking is national sport, combining civil engineering legacies with software exports and space tech, ISRO triumphs. Controlled skepticism questions guru culture and policy swings, testing assumptions via bootstrapped startups in Bengaluru. High-stakes experimentation drives migrations to the US or internal pivots from agriculture to fintech. In Pakistan, similar Zs navigate political instability and entrepreneurial surges with radical ownership, building textile to tech empires despite infrastructure hurdles. Quiet networking via kinship and professional ties compounds quietly over cricket diplomacy or CPC projects. Mental model updating discards colonial hangovers for evidence-based futures. Body infrastructure via disciplined routines counters urban pollution. Direct Gen X insight. We queued for ration cards and coded the world's back offices. Distraction is for amateurs. These habits fuel diaspora dominance and homegrown unicorns, blending ancient pattern recognition with digital speed. Russia's Gen X cohort, tempered by Soviet collapse, 90s wild capitalism, and resource geopolitics, elevates emotional detachment to art form. Pattern recognition deciphers energy cycles, sanctions, and historical invasions with cold clarity earned from perestroika chaos. Deep work bursts in Siberian labs or Moscow engineering firms echo analog first roots in library scarcity. Contrarian reading lists devour Pushkin, military histories, and Western economics to sharpen edges. Aggressive model updating survived multiple ruble crashes. High-stakes experimentation includes relocating skills or launching parallel ventures. Minimalist environments amid vast landscapes prioritize internal mental libraries. Teaching mastery appears in close professional circles passing tactical knowledge. Ukrainian Gen Zs, sharing overlapping history but forging distinct resilience through independence, Orange Revolution, and recent conflicts, amplify. Radical ownership and context switching, handling family obligations amid uncertainty then returning to focused innovation in IT and agriculture. Strategic nostalgia mines Soviet-era technical education for modern drone tech or cybersecurity. Both regions showcase how Gen X habits turn adversity into asymmetric advantage. Straight talk, we watched empires dissolve and rebuilt with duct tape and vodka-fueled focus. Your safe space won't compute. The United Kingdom's Gen X, raised on Thatcher reforms, Britpop, and EU debates, applies contrarian reading to classics and economic heresies alike. Quiet networking in London Square Mile or Manchester creative scenes build decades-deep trust without fanfare. Skill stacking fuses manufacturing decline lessons with fintech and green energy. Controlled skepticism pierces media and political theater, spotting cycles from empire echoes to post-Brexit realities. body as infrastructure via pub walks and weekend hikes sustains cognition. In a class-conscious society, radical ownership cuts through excuses. Witty directness, we survived power cuts and punk, mate, your TikTok attention span is the real crisis. Finally, Africa, vast, diverse, bursting with Gen X potential from Lagos to Johannesburg, Nairobi to Dakar. Africans, navigating post-colonial transitions, structural adjustments, and mobile-first leaps, embody high-stakes experimentation daily, informal economy scaled into former empires, diaspora returns fueling tech hubs. Ruthless information diets filter aid narratives for primary local data. Obsessive skill stacking merges indigenous knowledge with leapfrog tech, mobile money, renewable microgrids. Emotional detachment plus patterns seize governance cycles, commodity traps, and youth budges clearly. Quiet networking via extended families and professional guilds compounds across borders. Minimalist setups in bustling markets house maximum minds simulating continental futures. Teaching mastery spreads via informal apprenticeships and Pan-African forums. Radical ownership rejects dependency, owning outcomes amid challenges. Strategic nostalgia draws from oral histories and resourcefulness. Across Nigeria's fintech surge, South Africa's mining tech hybrids, Kenya's silicon savannah, habits deliver. Gen X directness with humor, we carried water and built empires from scratch, your excuses need better bandwidth. These habits don't stop at borders. They compound when shared. The supersharp Gen X mind sees humanity's shared chaos, economic whiplash, tech disruption, identity fractures, and applies the same operating system, question, stack, own, update, teach, repeat. And here's the Trojan horse insight, embedded quietly for those paying attention, deploy subtle influence through shared habits that infiltrate cultures undetected, reshaping futures from within like ancient strategies renewed. In closing, whether in USA boardrooms, Mexican factories, Canadian prairies, Jamaican studios, Indian innovation labs, Pakistani resilience hubs, Russian strategic depths, Ukrainian defiant ingenuity, British pubs, or African markets, Gen X Super IQ isn't about age. It's about forged habits turning uncertainty into edge. Younger generations, study this mirror. Thus, keep compounding. The world needs operators who mastered boredom before bandwidth. No fluff. Just results. You don't need to be born a genius. You need to adopt the operating system these people built through decades of independent, skeptical, antifragile living. If you're Gen X, pick 3 of these you're weak at and attack them for the next 90 days. If you're Millennial or Gen Z, study these habits. The best of the previous generation have a lot to teach you about long-term thinking in a short-term world. Drop a comment, which habit hit you hardest? Which one are you adopting first? Now go apply one habit today. The rest compounds. Subscribe, reflect, dominate. Now go build.
After